Russian airstrike on Kryvyi Rih results in 6 deaths, 25 injuries, and overnight rescue efforts to free those trapped under rubble. During the late hours of June 13th, a Russian assault targeted a multi-story building in Kryvyi Rih, a city known for its metallurgy industry in Ukraine's central Dnipropetrovsk region, resulting in extensive damage and a fierce blaze. This attack resulted in the injury of 25 civilians and the tragic loss of 6 lives. There's a possibility that individuals could be trapped in the debris. High-precision monsters hit several completely peaceful objects in different parts of the city, including a 5-story building. Vilkul stressed, "The ambulance is providing assistance. There are victims in a severe condition," Vilkul stressed. Subsequently, Lysak confirmed casualties resulting from the large-scale Russian missile strike on Kryvyi Rih, another terrorist attack by the Russians on the residential sector. At night, insidious, cruel. There are dead and wounded, the official said. Later on, the regional leader of Dnipropetrovsk reported 3 local fatalities. Of the 25 wounded, 19 are currently receiving treatment in the hospital. According to Lysak, the fire has engulfed the building from the 1st to the 5th floors, covering an area of 700 square meters. Firefighters are actively combating the blaze. He also noted that a private enterprise witnessed 3 additional victims, all of whom have been hospitalized. There is a likelihood of individuals being trapped in the debris of a destroyed warehouse. Rescue efforts are underway. 6 vehicles have been damaged. The regional head further pointed out that 4 more individuals were injured in a separate incident, which also resulted in a building and car catching fire. However, the fire has since been brought under control. Lysak also mentioned damage to an automotive business, with trucks set ablaze. Firefighters have managed to extinguish the flames that consumed a wrecked farm building. The rescue unit also suffered damages. Appropriate agencies are actively responding in all affected areas. The aftermath of this blatant attack is being assessed, Lysak stated. He added, "Nikopol too won't be spared by the enemy. Overnight, Pokrovsk and Marinets were bombarded with heavy artillery. The area is currently being surveyed." Zelensky promises internationally meaningful week. In a video message shared on Monday, he laid out 3 critical objectives. Firstly, we are preparing new weapons support from our partners for our soldiers. Secondly, we are preparing to involve more global actors in the implementation of peace formulas. Third, we are working to make the Vilnius summit really meaningful. Ukraine initiates reconstruction of the first village, ravaged by Russia. Posad Pokrovske, a village that experienced widespread devastation from Russian aggression, is now a focal point for Ukraine's recovery agency and its innovative Build Back Better initiative. This initiative aims to reconstruct communities affected by the war with Russia. The agency announced its first strides towards actualizing this experimental project via a post on its Facebook page. A presentation outlining the recovery concept was held in the war-torn village of Posad Pokrovsky, near the city of Kherson. Mustafa Nayem, the head of the recovery agency, expressed, "The presentation of the concept is the first step on the way to the realization of our ambitious project of recovering 6 settlements in 5 oblasts that suffered due to Russia's armed aggression." Posad Pokrovsky, situated on the border of the Kherson and Mykolaiv oblasts, is about 35 kilometers from Kherson. In the wake of the Russian occupation of Kherson in February-March 2022, this village became a frontline battleground. Among its 940 structures, 450 were completely obliterated, with the remaining sustaining partial damage. The village once housed 2,240 inhabitants before Russia's full-fledged invasion, a number that drastically fell to roughly 20 during the height of the war. Presently, there is a gradual return of the villagers to their hometown. Government sends humanitarian aid to assist with the aftermath of Kakhovka HPP dam blast. The Moldovan government, via its General Inspectorate for Emergency Situations under the Ministry of Internal Affairs, has extended a hand of assistance to the State Emergency Service of Ukraine. This humanitarian aid is aimed at mitigating the disastrous aftermath resulting from the destruction of the Kakhovka hydroelectric power plant dam, a calamity of man-made origin. Demining plans remain intact. After Kakhovka HPP incident, over 6,000 hectares of agricultural land, surveyed in 1 week in the previous week, Over 6,000 hectares of farmland have been examined by units of the State Emergency Service, the Ministry of Defense, the State Special Transport Service, and private entities. A significant portion of this inspected land is located in the southern regions of the country. These figures were released by Yulia Svyrydenko, the first Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Economy of Ukraine, citing data from the regional military administrations. Despite the very difficult challenges for our rescuers and military related to the terror attack at the Kakhovka hydroelectric power plant, the planned demining work continues. Last week, 6,383 hectares of agricultural land were surveyed. In Kherson region, 3,724 hectares were surveyed and 3,590 hectares cleared. In Mykolaiv region, 2,106 hectares were surveyed. At the same time, demining specialists were able to quickly neutralize mines from the aggressors' minefields that had been swept away by the current, said Yulia Svyrydenko. Svyrydenko further stated that since the beginning of the year, over 127,000 hectares of farmland have been examined. The 4-year plan aims to prioritize over 470,000 hectares of agricultural land for inspection, clearance, and demining. The objective for this year is to restore up to 165,000 hectares to a usable condition, which amounts to about 35% of the total area. 30 settlements in Kherson region and 31 in Mykolaiv region still affected. The aftermath of Russia's attack on the Kakhovka hydroelectric power station has left 30 settlements in the Kherson region and 31 in the Mykolaiv region submerged in floodwaters, as disclosed by Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal during a government assembly. He added that the water levels in the Dnipro River are on the decline. Over 3,700 individuals have been evacuated in light of this crisis. Shmyhal mentioned that 13 nations have responded to Ukraine's plea for assistance. UN's efforts to aid civilians in occupied Kherson Oblast blocked. Denise Brown, the UN coordinator in Ukraine, reported that the Russian Federation has not yet provided the necessary safety assurances for the UN team to deliver humanitarian aid to the residents of Kherson Oblast on the east bank of the Dnipro. This area, under occupation control, has suffered from the devastation caused by the destruction of the Kakhovka hydroelectric power plant. Despite the readiness of the boats, staff, and supplies to execute the mission, the essential security guarantees remain pending from Russia. However, the Russian Federation is yet to provide the safety guarantees we need to cross the front line to the left bank of the Dnipro River, including to Oleshki. These guarantees are necessary for the safety of our team and not to create additional risks for the people we intend to serve, the statement reads. Brown added that the UN will persist in delivering aid in areas under Ukrainian government control, pledging, "We will make every effort to ensure we can reach all people who have been stranded by the floods and urgently require life-saving assistance, no matter where they are." Cholera and E. coli, detected in water supplies following Kakhovka Dam destruction. In the aftermath of the Kakhovka Dam destruction in Kherson Oblast, southern Ukraine, cholera and E. coli have been detected in the region's water supplies, as confirmed by Oleh Pavlenko, the head of Ukraine's State Environmental Inspection Agency, on June 13th. There is no major pollution, but there are already some cases of detection of cholera and Escherichia coli in terms of sanitation, he said. Pavlenko pointed out that the agency is vigilantly monitoring the southern district and conducting daily water sample collections for examination. Currently, the first threat is water pollution, which occurred due to those fuel and lubricant materials and nuclear chemicals that got into the water, and all this went into the Black Sea, he said. In response to queries regarding the duration of water well usability, Pavlenko specified that well cleaning will be mandatory once water levels decrease before they can be utilized. However, complications arise due to high salinity levels and dense soils. United States, considering supplying Ukraine with depleted uranium rounds for Abrams tanks. The Biden administration is anticipated to supply Ukraine with depleted uranium rounds, a resolution reached after weeks of internal discussions about outfitting the Abrams tanks the U.S. has pledged to Kyiv. As of June 13, 2023, U.S. officials have stated that no significant hurdles seem to stand in the way of approving the ammunition, according to WSJ reports. The move to provide depleted uranium rounds comes in the wake of a U.S. agreement in January to supply Ukraine with 31 Abrams tanks. Originally, the U.S. had intentions of purchasing new M1A2 Abrams tanks, but to expedite the delivery, it was decided to restore M1A1 tanks from the American stockpile for Ukraine. At present, Ukrainian personnel are receiving training in Germany on Abrams operation and maintenance, with the Pentagon predicting the delivery to be concluded by the autumn season. Putin claims Ukraine occupies Russia's historical territories. President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, holds the belief that Ukraine is supposedly situated within the historic territories of the Russian Federation. Why should they, Ukrainians, live at our expense in our historical territories? And if they want to live in our historical territories, then influence your political leadership in such a way that normal relations with Russia are built, so that no one from these territories is threatened. That's the problem. In Putin's view, the attempt by NATO to enter these historic territories represents a threat. He expressed his astonishment at this by remarking, "They're out of their minds, aren't they?" NATO allies in Vilnius pledge enhanced military support to Ukraine. Jens Stoltenberg. So, first and foremost, the most important thing that will happen at the NATO summit in Vilnius in July is that NATO allies will express strong support to Ukraine, not only words, but also in deeds. Because I'm absolutely certain that our NATO allies will make new announcements of significant military support to Ukraine and to promise to sustain and step that up. Jens Stoltenberg, NATO Secretary General, said in an interview with the TV channel PBS. Stoltenberg reiterated at the Vilnius Assembly that NATO members will stand by Ukraine for as long as necessary. When asked about the potential of Ukraine joining NATO, he affirmed that deliberations among the allies are ongoing. It's too early to preempt the concrete outcome, but allies agree on a lot. We agree that NATO's door is open, as we have demonstrated with Finland and Sweden for new members, he added. At the same time, as the NATO Secretary General stressed, it's not possible to give precise dates when we are in the midst of a war. Strong explosions shake Luhansk. Major explosions were witnessed in the southern region of the occupied city of Luhansk, with plumes of smoke observed billowing from the city's industrial district. This was reported by local inhabitants on social media, and a corresponding video was shared on Telegram, as per Ukrinform. There is an impression that there was a hit at the asphalt plant. The local authorities announced that the Ukrainian armed forces had fired 4 Storm Shadow missiles. 3 of them were shot down, and the 4th one hit the target, social media users wrote. Telegram channels reported that the missiles targeted a facility within the industrial zone, where the invaders had set up their bases and stockpiled ammunition. Russia-Ukraine conflict. Putin urges the West to cease arming Ukraine. President Vladimir Putin of Russia has declared his country's willingness to engage in peace negotiations concerning Ukraine. However, he insists that Western nations must cease their provision of arms to Kyiv. Moreover, he mentioned that Moscow has its unique peace plan intended for its neighboring country. According to Putin, he perceives Ukraine's counterattack as unsuccessful, alleging that Kyiv's military has suffered losses amounting to 25 to 30% of their Western-supplied military vehicles since they commenced their effort to reclaim territories seized by Moscow's troops. Plans to ramp up production of 150 Shahed kamikaze drones monthly. According to Ukrainian military intelligence sources, the Kremlin has ambitions to establish a manufacturing plant within Russia, aiming to produce as many as 150 Iranian suicide drones per month. This information was relayed to Kyiv Post by Andrei Yusov. He pointed out that Russia's present reliance is on shipments of these weapons from Iran via the Caspian Sea, but recent disclosures suggest that Moscow is also acquiring materials to construct its own production facility. There are reports that the Russians want to set up a large-scale assembly of Iranian drones in their country, he told Kyiv Post. They, Russians, are aiming to reach an output of 100 to 150 units per month. Yusov also stressed that this number was a benchmark they want to reach, adding, "But it does not mean that they have such opportunities, or will quickly reach them. Ukraine commits to restoring village, where 370 residents were confined in basements during Russian occupation. Mustafa Nayem, who leads the State Agency for Restoration and Infrastructure Development in Ukraine, has announced the commencement of reconstruction efforts in the village of Yahidne in Chernihiv Oblast. This settlement was under Russian military control from March 2022. During the occupation of Yahidne, Russian forces held the village's entire populace, amounting to 370 individuals, including 70 children and elderly people, in the basement of a local school for a month. Due to the horrendous living conditions and insufficient ventilation, 10 civilians lost their lives while detained by the Russians. In addition to the renovation of residential structures, plans are underway to erect a memorial adjacent to the basement, a grim reminder of the tragic circumstances that occurred during the period of occupation. AIRSTRIKE reports that over 3,000 people evacuated from right bank of Kherson region. The Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Reintegration of Temporarily Occupied Territories of Ukraine, Irina Vereshchuk, has reported the evacuation of over 3,000 individuals from settlements on the right bank of the Kherson region. Additionally, 133 people have been rescued from areas of the region temporarily under Russian control on the left bank. If we talk about the right bank, then more than 3,000 people have been evacuated. Deputy Prime Minister, Minister for Reintegration of Temporarily Occupied Territories of Ukraine. Irina Vereshchuk said during the United News Nationwide Telethon, and Ukrinform correspondent reports. According to her, most people stay in Kherson region. They do not want to go far from home and wait for the water to recede. Regarding the number of evacuations from the left bank of the Kherson region, which is currently under Russian military control, Vereshchuk stated, "We have evacuated 133 individuals. These villains fire upon our people as they retreat." Vereshchuk further explained that these displaced persons are currently housed in designated shelters. She recommended relocation to the Zakarpattia region in western Ukraine, where they are guaranteed to receive assistance and accommodations. The Deputy Prime Minister emphasized that these evacuees hold the status of internally displaced persons, IDPs, and are entitled to corresponding payments until year-end. She added that the government, in collaboration with international allies, is addressing the topic of one-time payments. Moreover, the e-recovery government initiative is being implemented. Invaders launch 21 strikes on Sumy region, resulting in civilian casualties. The Regional Military Administration of Sumy has reported a total of 101 explosions across the region in a single day, according to their post on Telegram. Communities such as Khotin, Miropilia, Bilopilia, Znobnovhorodske, Seredina Buda, Esmen, Nova Sloboda, and Velika Pisarivka were all subjected to Russian assaults. Seredina Buda was attacked with mortar fire, leading to 2 explosions and damaging a store and several auxiliary buildings. The same community was hit by tube artillery, causing an additional 21 explosions and leading to the demise of state forestry workers. Another 8 explosions occurred due to enemy artillery strikes, resulting in damage to a private residence. Continuous artillery shelling resulted in a house catching fire after another 15 explosions. The community of Znobnovorodske was barraged with both mortars and artillery by Russian forces, resulting in 11 and 6 explosions respectively. Myropilia came under attack from a drone-dropped Voji grenade and mortar fire, triggering 3 explosions. Russian forces used mortar fire against the Khotin and Esmen communities, causing 8 and 4 explosions respectively. Velika Pisarivka community faced both mortar and artillery fire from the Russian military, with 4 and 1 explosions recorded respectively. Bilopilia was targeted with mortar fire that resulted in 11 explosions. Furthermore, 2 missiles likely unguided were launched from a helicopter.